but you respect my work so much. No interruptions, no breaking my flow, no, making loud noises while I'm on a coaching call, and that's so important to me.
I've never really met a guy that, for lack of better words, had his home being a harmonizing place. Conscious couples, business partners, and singles committed to attracting their dream partner. Welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and combined relationship expertise to help you create and consistently cultivate the most magnificent, intimate relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching conscious couples and individuals all over the world, as well as starting and growing a global business together, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals from all over the world, welcome back to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we talk all things intimate relationships. You are not alone in your intimate relationship challenges. This is episode number 25. I said with absolute certainty.
25.
How to live together in harmony. So Emilia and I just came up on our 1 year of living together recently.
Yeah.
You sent me a little video of the very beginning, which was really, really cute. So we've been living together for officially a year now. And it's been hands down the most magnificent year of my life.
Same.
And I attribute a lot of that to who you live with. If you're out there watching or listening to this, you know who you live with is one of the biggest determining factors to whether or not you are fulfilled or not. Before we jump into this episode, I want to give a shout out to the Next Level Podcast Solutions team who produce this podcast, audio, video, all of the above. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, I'm plugging my other company.
They do great work.
And thank you, love. They do great work, not me. Okay, perfect. Yes, also true. As always, love ladies first.
Okay. Alrighty. So for this one, how to live together in harmony. That big old word with a big old H, harmony, for me too. Also, we've had different living situations before, and we come across this all the time with our clients. Where you live, specifically to your point, who you live with and how you live together can be the fruit, the nutrients in your relationship that can help grow a magnificent relationship, or it can be the toxic soil, kind of thinking of plant analogy here. So sorry for not prefacing that with this. The home that you live in, how you live together, how you treat each other in the home that you live with or in. Essentially, when you think about that and you think about how influential that is to your relationship, you can really start to zoom in on the things that are really serving your relationship and the things that aren't. When we talk to couples all over the world about their relationship, sometimes it might be in the little nitty gritty things of how they live together, whether or not they put up a bath mat after their shower, or whether or not, laundry or dishes or little things are done or not done. And it turns out that after living together with you, babe, for a year, there's so many nuances that you and I have picked up on what has created such a harmonious lifestyle for us. And my intention with this episode is to help share what some of those are for us, so that some of our listeners and our community members can not only hear what has really served us to maybe potentially include that in their lifestyles, but to also find the equivalent of theirs and really look at their relationships and say, okay, what is helping us to harmonize and live a really magnificent life, okay? And focusing on that, pouring more attention into that than maybe those little things that you might be nitpicking your partner about, right? Because if we look at the things that aren't perfect, or there's flaws, or maybe we struggle to kind of find alignment in, that energy is going to grow what that is in your consciousness. And so we want to shift the energy in this episode to looking at what has harmonized your relationship, in particular, how you live together, what you're doing, and what's unique. So to my baby. Question for you. What has harmonized our living together for you?
So before we dive into that, I wanted to share this as well because this was one of the cutest things ever. So Emilia and I are coming up on being together for 3 years since we've met. And I believe this October, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I remember I was so excited to live with her. And I knew eventually we would live together, obviously. And I had lived with a past partner in my mid-20s, and so I had experienced that before, and that was a great relationship. Nothing in comparison, love, but it was a great relationship. And I remember that transition. I was scared. Back then, I was scared in my early 20s, like living with a partner, right? It can be really scary.
Yeah. And
it was so awesome. And I knew my relationship with you was even more magnificent on every level, so I knew living with you was going to be even better, right? And you had never lived with an intimate partner before. This is a first for you. And a last. No, I'm just joking. But seriously. But I wanted to ask you, and I wanted to share that with our listeners, what was scary about that? Because maybe we have some listeners that haven't moved in with their partner yet, and maybe they're reluctant like you were.
Great question. And I remember going back to that moment too, and I was freaking out. I was like, so for context for our listeners, so it was very important to my household. My family's household really believed that you do not really move in with someone until you are married. Oh. And so with that cultural familial belief, that's why the waters hadn't been tested, because that wouldn't really suit well for whomever was my suitor at the time, nor would it suit well for the whole family dynamic. So anyways, to that extent, what I had seen in terms of exposure to males and how they live was very narrowed, if you will, in terms of obviously how my father, my brother, and then also like, and I think I had mentioned this in former episodes, like seeing college dorms of like different guys, like when we would go to like house parties or whatever. And there was always like a horror movie happening in the bathroom when us ladies were like not in such a good state and would have to go to the bathroom. It was just an absolute disaster, mess, disgusting. Like, so the thought of moving in with a guy always terrified me because
understandable, super
not clean, really unhygienic. Like I could just like absolute messy household. Like I never really met a guy that, for lack of better words, had his home being a harmonizing place. And so to that extent, I unconsciously and very unfairly projected that onto you as we got into a relationship. And in general, it was like the doomsday of, oh shoot, well, when I end up living with a person, I'm going to have to subject myself to this. And I'll always forever be the maid of the household, having to pick up after whatever male I ended up with, right? So that was the fear a lot underneath that, because a lot of my exposure, again, to different households, was the feminine in the relationship was always kind of picking up after or making things nice for the male in the relationship. And so a part of me was so afraid of, when I did feel comfortable to make that step, that I would have to assume that feminine, dogmatic, very misogynistic role that I had exposure to. And being the very empowered feminine woman that I am, that has dreams, that has goals, that has ambitions, folding laundry, picking up socks on the ground, cleaning up other people's dishes, that scared me, right? So bringing that into the relationship, I was very afraid. And
luckily Tucker picks up our stuff.
Luckily Tucker picks up our stuff. But I'm so grateful that I feel as though I hit the lottery, because Alan is literally the complete opposite of all of those really uncollected men that I had exposure to, and the least entitled male I've ever met in my entire life, in terms of assuming that his partner or whatever, doesn't do that for him. So I'm really grateful. And I don't know if I answered your question now that I think about it. I'm like semi-triggered because it's like, oh my God, going back to that state, it was so scary. I was like, oh my God, I can't be a housemaid. I just can't. I have dreams.
Well, I think that in the context of this conversation, first of all, it's understandable that you felt that way. So I don't want to make you wrong for that. But I also knew that I'm not like that.
Not at
so
all.
I had awareness that you didn't.
Yeah.
And I tried to tell her, I'm like, babe, it's going to be
right.
the best thing. I swear to God, I think I said something along the lines of, at the risk of sounding cocky at the time.
You were very confident.
I was like, I will be the best roommate you've ever had. Hands down. And I don't know how I knew that.
You were so sweet.
I just felt that way. I knew it would work.
I'm sorry
wonderful.
I didn't see you in that moment.
Oh, baby, it's okay.
I had zero evidence.
I wasn't upset by that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Genuinely. It makes sense. You had no evidence, right? And luckily Tucker always picks up our socks, but I guess let's get back into it. But how to live together in harmony. Yeah. Emilia and I living together has been magnificent, but I want everyone to know there were fears on her end, more so than mine. But there were fears for me before I had ever lived with a partner as well. Totally understandable. So if you're out there and you don't live with your partner and you have some fears, hopefully that can be helpful. If you're out there and you do live with a partner or you have, then this is going to resonate. So there's two things on this episode that I want to try to accomplish together as a team. Listeners, Emilia, myself. One, identify the things that are not in harmony currently. And I know we're starting with veggies first. So what is it in your household that is out of harmony? So for example, I know this is a little OCD, but I did not pick up so last night you went to bed early. Tucker and I watched a movie, as if Tucker watches movies with me. He does. He snuggles with me. Tucker's our little dog, by the way. But anyways, so I have the blankets and stuff and the pillows all out splayed on the couch, and I haven't picked them up yet. But if there's certain things in your relationship that are what we call bugs in the garden, don't let the bugs grow. Try to bring them up in a cordial way. So that's number one. Is there anything outside of harmony? I'm not getting good sleep. I was on the phone with a client recently, and she's like, I'm not getting good sleep because we just moved to a new home and our bed is smaller, and that kind of thing. And I'm a restless sleeper. So are you not getting good sleep because your partner snores? That's one lifestyle preference. That's very common. Toilet seat. We've heard of that one, right? Dishes, morning versus night. I know you prefer to do them in the evening before. I prefer to do them in the morning. Pets, childcare, bath mat, all these lifestyle preferences. I have written on my Remarkable a star, lifestyle preferences. So one of the 25 conscious love languages is lifestyle preferences. So what lifestyle preferences are outside of harmony right now, if any? Okay, that's number one. Number two, let's have appreciation and gratitude for the things that are in harmony. That way we look at the good and the bad. We can mitigate the bad by working as a team. And then we can double down and appreciate the things that are good and not just look at what's wrong. And so I'm going to share a couple quickly, and then we'll move to you. So I've never met someone who I think has more respect for other people in general, genuinely. But living with you, the amount of respect, that just keeps jumping off the page. You respect my sleep, you respect my solitude, you respect how much I care about fitness, you respect my work more than anyone ever has. My work's always been deeply meaningful to me. I care deeply about my work. And I don't feel like anyone has ever cared as much about their work as I do about my work. And maybe that's unique to me. I don't know. But you respect my work so much. No interruptions, no breaking my flow, no, making loud noises while I'm on a coaching call, and that's so important to me, right? When someone's paying you that much money for an hour of your time, I like to take it very seriously. It's important. And not even without the money, it's still that important to me. Right. So you are just so respectful. So I want to give you gratitude for that, of what I value. And I wanted to make that very, very clear. In terms of things that are not in harmony, Emilia and I, we are very proactive about this stuff. So there's not a lot that I can think of. Yeah. I do know at one point I didn't want to do dishes at night because my willpower's low. Yep. And the last thing I want to do is another thing when I've been up all day. And then you want to do them in the morning. And then we've had a couple discrepancies around bedtimes because we want to go to bed together. We love that. We don't like going to bed separately. That's rare, but when it happens, it sucks, honestly. And Emilia likes early mornings in the summer to get up with the sun. And sometimes I like to stay up later and sleep in a little more. So those kinds of things were out of harmony. I think we're working on harmonizing around 11 or 10 p.m. right now. But those are just some things that I wanted to share. And for the listeners, I want you, this isn't about Emilia and I. We tell our story and we share our experiences so that you can be thinking about your relationship, so that you can be thinking about your household, so that you can be thinking about, is my partner respectful of my work? Is my partner respectful of my solitude? Do we go to bed and have a specific schedule that works for both of us? Or is it kind of one person compromising while the other doesn't?
Right.
So yeah.
Hi, my name is Lynn. I got to had the privilege of recently meeting with Alan and Emilia on one of their free sessions talking about relationships. So I'm 42, I'm single, and I'm trying to figure out what it is that I'm doing wrong. So working with them will help me figure out what are my standards? What do I want in my future partner? What can I do to attract that partner? How can I, find someone where I could develop a long-lasting relationship with? Just from our brief conversation, I know that they have formulas. I mean, there's formulas, there's processes, there's strategic ways to go about, attracting the right people in your life, maintaining those relationships, how to communicate and grow together. So I am grateful that I connected with them, and I look forward to where this takes me in my future. All right, thanks. Bye.
So I want to, for those of you who are Harry Potter fans, I want you to think about, what movie is it, babe?
It's the very last one.
The very last movie.
So it's this part 2 of the 7th movie.
Part 2 of the 7th
the Deathly
movie.
Hallows part 2.
So Deathly Hallows part 2. If you're a Harry Potter fan, you'll know exactly what we're talking about with this. If you're not, we definitely encourage you to research this on the YouTubes to look at the scene. So there's a scene in that movie where essentially Voldemort finally, right, the evil, is finally going to take all of his forces. So you have thousands of dark people that are trying to blur out the light of the goodness of Hogwarts, right? The school of witchcraft and wizardry.
Strong work. This is good. We just watched the entire 8-movie series.
Yeah, so bear with me.
And by the way, over the last 4 months. Yeah,
Solid.
we do a half hour to an hour and a half a night, depending on how much cake I have to eat.
And what my bedtime is. So that being said, the dark forces are finally, and this is the last finale, right? So this has been long overdue. This should have happened in the first movie, but then you wouldn't have the magnificent series of what Harry Potter is. And you finally have the dark forces coming into all of the light forces of the school. So at one point, all of the amazing, very good wizards are collected at Hogwarts, and to try to keep out and hold at bay all of the dark forces, Voldemort and his army, they all take their wands and they point it up to the sky. And so if you could envision all of this light being put to the sky, essentially what it did, it encapsulated Hogwarts and the entire campus of this school, which includes lakes and everything. It's beautiful. It puts it in this giant bubble of magic. So picture a school, and the entire campus has this force field that's impermeable to the dark forces. And if people try to permeate this bubble, they just vanish. They catch on fire. It's so incredible because it's the combination of all of the wizards that are putting their magic, their light towards that force field. And I use that analogy because that's what I think of and what I want our viewers and our listeners to think of when it comes to their relationship. You can have, and Alan and I, in this analogy, we would have our wands kind of pointing it up to the sky and create this beautiful bubble.
Wingardium wee bubble.
and essentially your home, your living space, that harmony that's created underneath that force, where the we force field is created against all of those outside forces. And it is so often and so easy nowadays, and very sneaky opportunities where those dark forces can take away from all of the light that is relationships, and that is a conscious relationship. And Like, for example, like a phone, like a phone can be such a great tool for your relationship, right? Taking photos and memories and all that stuff. But if it's taking you and you're sitting in bed next to your intimate partner and you're scrolling through social media, right? That's a sneaky way to really deteriorate and deharmonize the relationship. So what it is and what we're trying to do in this essence is create our home in the way in which we live together, to create such a magnificent bubble, if you will. And so what that looks like, and we've mentioned this and we've talked about it, but like we don't have home phones that are ringing off the hinges. We have boundaries around our notifications, right? How
Full disclosure, we took off our doorbell.
we recently just took off our doorbell, and that might sound absolute batshit crazy to some people, but at the end
Best
of the day,
decision of all time.
yeah, really one of the best decisions for us of all time.
And here's why. We work during the day from home,
Mm-hmm.
and the Amazon delivery people, for whatever reason, even though we put it in the text, like, please don't ring the doorbell because Tucker also barks.
Yep.
Understandable, because that's his job. He's a guard dog.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Palm Cheese or Chihuahuas are the second or first best guard dogs.
I think they're the second. Chihuahuas.
And so Tucker's job is to guard the home.
So good at
And
it.
when the doorbell goes, Tucker goes nuts, and it disrupts our flow.
Yeah.
And our work, and we're on
Mhm.
calls. We take our work very seriously. And so the Emilia, when she gets Amazon packages, she puts in the preferences, please don't ring the doorbell.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter.
Same
They
thing
still
with like
do.
delivery people with food and
Yeah,
everything. It's
exactly.
like you
So-
can tell people explicitly what not to do, and sometimes it will happen.
And so we hammered that thing. Speaking of doorbells, no, that was the alarm for the phone. But so we hammered that thing right off.
Yep.
Now there is no doorbell. Problem solved. It's actually just a glass full of rocks now hanging.
People
which is
probably
cool.
think
Strong work.
we're pretending, but that's the case. And what we mean by that, again, that was our way of what serves the we household,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you and I, we value solitude. We value our work so much that some random person, while they might be thinking they're doing us a favor by ringing our doorbell, letting us know that there's packages on our front doorstep, they don't know that we have our life set up in such a way that we have controlled those notifications to come to us when we are open to receiving them, not just at any one beck and call. So that helps us harmonize the we and our force field and keep out, in that essence, the distractions, which is the dark light or the darkness in our relationship. So whether it be, the doorbell, or whether it be, people coming over, whatever it is for your relationship, there's definitely a dark force, if you will, out there that is sneakily encroaching upon the boundaries of your relationship that either you've set and are struggling to hold, or have never set and are afraid to even create. And so we want to encourage everyone in this episode, certainly to realize the benefit of setting something like that. Like you and I have been able to really be so present and be harmonized in a way that I didn't even think was possible in a relationship at one point. And if I could give anything to more people, it would be really what you and I have, because we work so hard and so proactively to try to make sure that we have harmony in our home, and I'm really proud of that.
Same.
Wow, that's you, love.
Same. You as well, sweetheart. So we're playful with this, and we joke about doorbell, this, that, and the other thing. But at the end of the day, I'm living in a more peaceful harmony with Emilia on a day-to-day basis than I've ever experienced before.
Same.
And it's just a drama-free life. It's
Yeah.
wonderful, and we want that for everyone. And it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be completely drama-free, because life is crazy and things happen, but you can work towards a closer and closer and closer to a drama-free life. I know that at 33 years of age, this is without a question the most harmonious I've ever personally lived. And it is truly magnificent. So there's a digital asset that Emilia created and Emilia's team, and it'll be at a link in the show notes if you want to download it. It's called the We Force Field. So again, picture the Hogwarts thing. And there's a couple other lifestyle preferences I want to mention here really quickly. One, Emilia and I decided that we didn't want our phones to be charged in the living room. because we have a bedroom, and then right to our right was where our charging station was. So the first thing we did when we woke up in the morning is we'd walk past our phones, go immediately down the rabbit hole of work because we both work virtually.
Right.
So now we put our chargers upstairs. We have a charging station in what we call the nook in between our offices. Little shifts like that, little environmental shifts like that can change everything. And that's really what this episode is about. So get with your partner, talk about these lifestyle preferences, figure out what is in harmony, what is not in harmony, what is aligned, what is not aligned. And the only wrong answer, again, as always, is to sit back and stay the same. Because if you want to get to the next level of your relationship, you don't want to get to the next level of your life, it's going to require some proactive, positive change. And if this is an uncomfortable conversation to have with your partner, you've never talked about anything like this, start small. Start with something small like the dishes or the toilet seat or whatever. I always say, and I'll keep saying this forever, you can lead, you can leave, or you can appease. And unfortunately, a lot of people are choosing that third one. And that's how you end up stuck. Lead is courage, bring it up, work on it as a team, get back in harmony. Leave is, honestly, this isn't working. I'm sorry. I don't really want to live with you anymore. Appease is just suppress yourself and be unfulfilled and not authentic. And I think too many people in the world are doing that third one. I certainly was in past relationships. And I don't want that for anyone. So that's all I've got. Love, do you have anything you want to add before we go?
The only thing is that, like, it starts, like you said, small, but it's in a little moment where you could say, babe, I'm just recognizing that what we're doing, this, insert whatever it is just not in harmony for us anymore. Because what might have served you and what might have been in harmony, right? Let's say, for example, pre-kids really might not be harmonious for your relationship after kids or after you get a pet or after the job change or after whatever insert event here. And so a little thing, if I could share with anyone just that verbiage of how you can approach a conversation like that, it would be just sharing what you've observed from the frame of harmony.
Perfect, sweetheart. Perfect. I'll give a quick example of that. So after the Harry Potter series of 2022, we did like a 3.5 month thing where we would just watch the whole series. It was awesome. And I love Harry Potter and I love movies. And we've got a big 83-inch in our bedroom. So it's amazing. Best thing ever. And eventually we noticed that it was infringing upon your sleep a little bit.
Yeah.
And so Emilia had the courage to bring that up. And now we are much more proactive. And if you hadn't brought that up, you wouldn't be hitting. It would have continued down that bad trajectory. And so just have courage and bring it up. And if you bring something up that's important to you and your partner is not receptive to that, that's a whole nother conversation. And you know, at least now you'll know. So you got to bring it up. You got to have courage. Okay. So before we go here, August 11th is our next event. We talked about it on the last episode. So we're going to help you and your partner build a future together as a team. A lot of people are not working as a team consistently, whether it comes to living together or achieving goals together. And I really do believe a lot of times a relationship can be more magnificent when it is a byproduct of mutual goals. A lot of the goals that I'm working towards, fitness, business, or otherwise, Emilia and I literally started a business together. So we're in harmony towards our goals together. And we need to have a mutual vision that we're working towards. And whenever there's a mini moment where I feel like I'm working towards something that she isn't, or vice versa, we feel disconnected because we're headed in different directions. And we don't want to diverge, we want to converge. And so how do you do that when you have separate visions? So on that episode, we're going to create what's called a we board, which is a vision board for the we. Makes perfect sense. And it's on August 11th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Building your future as a team. These are private. These are not recorded. They are free. Come join the Conscious Couples community. You're going to realize you are not alone. You are not the only one who has challenges, and you are not the only one who doesn't want to settle for a mediocre relationship. You're not the only one who wants to get better and wants to grow with their partner, because there's a lot of relationships that are just friends at this point. They're not passionately in love, and I don't like that. So that's not what a conscious couple is all about.
Definitely not. Wingardium we bubble. To that extent, if you're someone who is struggling in this capacity, say, for example, you notice that things are out of harmony in your household and it's starting to creep up like on the back of your neck and you're like, you've had it. or maybe you know that you're on that trajectory, because a lot of people that we work with, they know when it's coming, and they're struggling to be able to communicate and share with someone who has no attachments, completely unbiased, who will be judgment free of where they currently are in life right now. So if you need someone to talk to about that, please reach out to Alan and I. We literally would love to help you in whatever capacity and whatever you need to share or want to even verbally process, and you just need someone to talk to. We are 1000% here for you, because we know that would have been exactly what we needed at that time. And unfortunately, we weren't around at that time, right? So we would love to hear what you're going through and even just be a sounding board. So the link will also be in the show notes to book on our calendar. It's completely free. We're not going to sell you on anything. It's just really a safe place, judgment free, to hear what you're struggling through. And reach out.
Reach out. You are not alone. There's also going to be a registration link for the RT event, Relationship Talks monthly event as well. The August event.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
August.
Yep.
Okay.
All the things for these.
August 11th, there's 2 links. So there's one to book on our calendar to meet us for the half an hour Relationship Talks call.
Mm-hmm.
Every Saturday we do a half an hour with one of our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
And then August 11th, we have a Relationship Talks monthly meetup. That's an event that we do. Okay. Also, as always, before we go here, always remember you're not alone. You're not the only one who has these challenges. You're not the only one who wants a more magnificent relationship and who doesn't want to settle. And as always, it's not about me or you. It's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please make sure you follow us on Instagram. I am at Evolve with Emilia, and Alan is a Lazaros 88.
Also, if you or your partner resonated with this episode, leave us a review at the link in the show notes, and please share this with someone you love and care about.
Until next time, remember, it's not about you or me. It's about
the we.